everybody. I just want to welcome you. We are going to do Advocacy 101 with Bob DeVries. My name is Debbie McCullough, and I'm the Executive Director of the Michigan Library Association. Bob?
And I'm Bob DeVries. I'm a lobbyist at GCSI, and we are the lobbyists for the Michigan Library Association.
Bob, will you tell us just the difference between advocacy and lobbying?
There's not a lot of difference, Debbie, but under the Michigan law, the difference is whether you get paid for it or not. I'm a lobbyist because I advocate all day long and I get paid to do it. That doesn't mean you can't be an advocate, though. Advocacy just means influence. It just means being able to state your position in a way that helps people understand it, and also in a way that helps people hopefully agree with you in the end. And so advocacy and lobbying are terms we use synonymously, but I am your lobbyist because I am your advocate.
Why is advocacy so important?
Advocacy is important because the things that happen in Lansing have a significant effect on what goes on day to day in your neighborhood library. And so whether that's appropriations issues, whether it's regulatory things, whether it's property tax changes, with an organization like the library, where the money generally comes from one form of government money or another, a different change in the law here in Lansing can mean the world of difference. And so without somebody constantly advocating, you're always at risk of having an adverse change in the law.
So I know I get this question very, very often from library staff members and trustees and the directors, but can library staff advocate on behalf of their libraries?
Absolutely. Sometimes people confuse advocacy work and campaign work. As public employees, for those of you that are public employees, you can't use your publicly paid time to go convince people to vote yes or vote no for a candidate, or to vote yes or vote no for a ballot proposal. But that doesn't mean you can't advocate for your cause, for your organization. That's perfectly acceptable, and in fact, it's encouraged.
So who makes a good advocate?
Someone that's passionate. You need passion to be a good advocate. If you're talking about something that you don't believe in, people will know. People will notice easily. Advocacy to me is telling a story, and you got to be a convincing storyteller. And I think that always starts with your level of passion and your level of knowledge in your subject.
You know, we have a lot of great patrons and our trustees, but can we get all of those people involved in this day as well? Yeah,
absolutely. I think that the key is just someone that has that passion. And so obviously your staff members do. Your library board members hopefully do as well. MLA staff has done a great job in the meetings that I've been in. But it can certainly be a patron. It can be anybody that's had a positive experience at a library and is willing to talk about it.
When we do start to talk to our legislators and we do bring our passion to the table, why does advocating to our legislature seem so intimidating, and how do we make that become more comfortable?
It's hard to explain why it's intimidating. I think people are just intimidated by government in general. And the people are intimidated by kind of stepping outside of their comfort zone. The way that it starts to become more comfortable is to realize that these legislators they're just regular people. We've got really short term limits here in Michigan. All of these people, all of these men and women did something else before they were a legislator, and they'll do something else after. The most amount of time that any of them can serve in the legislature between the House and the Senate is 14 years. And that's not a career. And, there's no special requirement that it takes to become a legislator except to get elected. And so, these are not the most intimidating people you've ever met. They're just regular people. And as you talk to them, you'll realize that pretty quickly.
Just a quick short, how does a bill become a law? And don't sing the Schoolhouse Rock song. So.
It is a lot like the song. I mean, any legislator can introduce a bill. And once they have a bill, they introduce it, and in the House, it becomes a House bill. If it's a senator, it becomes a Senate bill. From there, it gets referred to a committee, and the Senate Majority Leader and the Speaker of the House in the respective chambers have the deference to put it in whatever committee they choose. From there, the chairperson of the committee can choose to hold a hearing or not. Lots of bills get referred to committee and then never go further than that. If the chairperson holds a hearing, and then he can choose to hold a vote or not. There are also bills that have a hearing that never get voted on. But if the bill gets voted out of committee, the next step is the floor of the House or the floor of the Senate, where it can be scheduled for a vote for the entire chamber. If that happens, you need 20 out of 38 votes in the Senate, and you need 56 out of 110 votes in the House. And if it passes there, it goes to the other chamber and starts the same process over again. Committee, floor, etc. If it gets changed in the second chamber, it goes back to the first chamber for a concurrence vote. And at that point in time, it gets sent on to the governor for a signature or a veto.
And we know how that works. We've been very successful with MLA with your help to get a lot of stuff passed through. I think that a lot of our work in the legislature, though, works around money. So how does the appropriations process work? So
the state passes a budget every year. It's actually one of the very few things that the Constitution requires the legislature to do on an annual basis. And so every February, the governor has to issue a budget message, which is her proposed budget for the year. Governor did that in February this year. You can go to michigan.gov/budget and take a look at what she proposed. And that kind of kicks off the budget season. From there, the appropriations subcommittees in both the House and the Senate start taking testimony on their individual pieces of the budget. This is generally from large stakeholders, so not everybody that has a piece of the budget has to come in and talk about it. But you'll see, those that eat up the biggest chunk of taxpayer money will come in and talk about how they've spent it in the past and how they plan to spend it in the future. And so often it's the governor's cabinet that comes in. It's the director of this department or the deputy director of that department comes in and talks about what their departments are doing with the money they've been appropriated. From there, the subcommittees each build their budget. There is one budget subcommittee generally for each state department. A few committees handle multiple departments, but most of them line up with their subject matters of which each department gets their own budget area. And then they pass those out to the full appropriations committee. We work our issues through the subcommittee chairs because that's the lowest level there. And it's the area we've had the most success. Once we hopefully get our funding requests into the budget subcommittee recommendation. From there, it goes to the Appropriations Committee, and they debate the whole thing all over again as a full committee. Things get added, things get taken out, and then from there, it's just like every other bill. It goes to the floor of the House and the floor of the Senate, and they swap and make a bunch of changes, and eventually it ends up in the governor's desk.
So let's go back to legislators and building these strong relationships with them. And do they really want to hear from us? I mean, do we spin our wheels when we're having an advocacy day? We're gonna be in front of them all day long. Do they really listen to what we have to say?
Most of them do. I mean, you can't speak for all of them, I suppose, but legislators do love to hear from people from back home. Legislators are always thinking about where their votes are coming from. They're always thinking about the people that they serve. And some legislators take a statewide view and they love to hear from everybody, but every legislator puts a special influence on people from their area. And so that's why I think that this virtual advocacy day is going to be very successful because we're pairing up each of you, hopefully with your local legislator. And so when you get on the call with them and say, I live in your district, that means something, and it's going to be something that's a little bit more memorable than if when just Debbie and I are coming in there together.
A very strong message comes from their districts. So how do we build those strong relationships? What kinds of things can we be doing? It's certainly not a one-time process. What kinds of things should we be doing all year long to build those relationships?
I think it just starts with communication, especially right now when in-person meetings are still infrequent. Normally, I would say you should be inviting your legislator to the library as often as possible, whether it's for their coffee hours that they hold so people can come in and talk, or whether it's to use your facility for a town hall meeting, or something like that, or just to do a tour so they can see how the behind the scenes stuff works at the library. But also, I would imagine that many of you are involved in other local organizations, whether it's a school group or whether it's the local chamber of commerce or whether you're, appointed to another local board. There's lots of things that legislators are involved in, and so you can expand your scope outside of your job as a person that works at the library or someone that serves on a library board, and find other reasons to connect with your legislator. Proximity and how often you can just get close to them matters a lot. Frequency matters a lot, and then communication. Legislators are always going to be interested in what's happening in their district. And I think legislators see people that work in the library as community leaders. And so that elevates you even one step above any normal random person that might call their office with a question or a concern.
I think too often we forget to add them to our databases and invite them to our programs. And even if they don't come, I know that they know that they've been invited. So make sure that they're getting that information directly from you. So, and I've heard that even in the few meetings that we've had with the freshman legislators this year. So when we talk to this is a little bit of a different spin, but when we talk to our legislators, what do they want to hear about? I know that, we can be, there can be some informal conversations, but how do we start to broach what we really want from them, in their positions?
I think you start with what you really want as a relationship. I mean, if you're asking for, some sort of major favor the first time you meet with them, it's a little bit more difficult. And so, I describe what I do as advocacy in the context of relationships. It's my job to have a relationship with the 148 legislators in Lansing, so that when Debbie and my other clients need something, I have a relationship to go talk to someone about it. And so I think as you start this process, you focus on that relationship first. And that the easy way is to just talk about what you're doing and ask them about what they're doing. Libraries are positive influences in the community, and it's easy to describe how those things work in your community. And it's easy to talk about how much further of a scope you have beyond loaning out books. And especially during this last year when we've had a lot of doing school at home, a lot of you have been using your technology for helping with those, whether it's Wi-Fi hotspots or whether it's making sure your Wi-Fi extends into the parking lot so people can come in and sit in their cars and use the Wi-Fi. These are all great stories that you can tell to your legislator. And that's an example of, you don't need to ask for something. Just talk about what you've been doing in the community. Talk about how you want to have a relationship. Talk about how, if you ever have any questions, like, I'm a person you can come talk to about what's going on, not only in the library, but in the community. And legislators love that. Legislators don't always have the most friendly reception everywhere they go, because what they do is inherently political. And so rather than be one of those people that, either embraces them or shuns them based on their political beliefs, you should embrace them based on their desire to step up in the community as a leader, just as you have by choosing to, be an advocate for the library.
We're finding that libraries are really a very bipartisan support. I mean, we are seeing that. And I think that's really important, that while we may disagree with some of the other politics, no matter what side of the aisle we're on, the libraries themselves are bipartisan. What kinds of things do we need to take into consideration to be a good advocate? So what's the kind of the process of knowing, where to go, what to talk about, how to, tell your story, encouraging others to be good advocates? What's that process look like?
I said it earlier as well, but I think it's all about telling a story. I mean, what is the narrative? And, a narrative's got a good beginning, and it's got a good middle, and it's got a good end, but you're definitely heading in a direction. And so you should go into a meeting with a legislator knowing what your narrative is. And that could be the story of how you guys pivoted during COVID, or that could be the story of how you moved from, being the institution that was a book-based institution to pivoting to now you do technology and now you do all of these other great things. Or it could be, hey, we just finished the census and our library, played a role in helping get everybody counted. Or, we've got a program where we help people with their resumes and we do this or we do that. Libraries have so many things going for them that there are a lot of different stories. And so rather than try to fit all of it into one meeting where you're just kind of, listing out all of the cool, fun facts about the library, craft a story. And this is the story we're going to tell about, why this library is a great community asset. Sometimes the story ends with an ask. It ends with, and so because of all of these things, I need you to do this for me. That's not really the case. I mean, we always want a little bit more money for the appropriations process. We always need a little bit here and there, but Debbie and I will do that. That's what we will work on. And so we can talk about how those are our needs, but this is just a really good step for you to build that relationship. Be part of their team, be part of the people in the community that they can rely on for information and for feedback. And so just tell a story about why your library has done some great things. And I think that's a great way to start with your advocacy.
What happens if they ask questions and they oppose what we're, maybe they are in opposition of it? How do we deal with that kind of reaction?
It happens. I mean, I've been told no plenty of times. But I think you just smile and say thanks. I mean, all we're doing is asking for their time. Even if they disagree with us, I think it's still better to have a good relationship. And so, sometimes you can change people's minds, but rarely can you change somebody's mind, on the spot. And so the best way to do it is over time. It's about frequency and proximity, like I said earlier. The more they get to know about you, the more they're going to relate to you and the more they're going to see things your way. And so don't be discouraged if the first thing you hear is, I don't know if I agree with you on that. It's not an uncommon first response. Now, in a situation like this, where we're not asking for a lot of very specific, difficult things, I don't think you're going to hear a lot of that today. But I do think that through your Advocacy Day experience, you're going to get some pretty positive feedback from the legislators about their thoughts on the library. And it's just a good foundation to build on when we need something else in the future.
So how do we track issues? Obviously following MLA, following what is going on within our advocacy realm, but can we do that on our own as well? How do we know what those issues are sometimes?
Sure. I mean, if you want to really plug into what's happening in Lansing, you can certainly do that. There's a lot of information out there. I mean, just reading the news on a regular basis will let you track the big issues. But the reason why there are associations like MLA and the reasons why MLA hires somebody like me is because there's a lot going on in Lansing. And so the best way to track the issues is to rely on Debbie. She puts out a lot of good information from MLA and she'll keep you apprised of everything related to libraries and what we're working on together. We've got a legislative committee that reviews all of the bills, make sure that we've got positions on everything that deal with libraries, and make sure that we're not spending our time on stuff that is irrelevant to us as well.
So if I don't know who my legislators are, how do I find them? How do I know who they are?
So there's several ways, but I think the easiest way is just to go straight to the websites for the House and the Senate. If you go to house.mi.gov or senate.mi.gov and click the links to legislators, there's maps. If you live in an area with a large district, it's easy to see which district you're in. If you live in the city of Detroit or in Oakland County or Grand Rapids where the districts are a little bit smaller, there's resources on the page too to help you pinpoint exactly where you are and who your legislator is. But you just go to those two websites and you'll be able to figure out who your senator is and who your House member is as well.
And what will those websites tell me? Will they tell me a little bit about the senator and the House member and what their interests are and things like that?
Yeah, it'll have their biography on it, and it will have the kind of the recent press releases, the stuff that they're putting out about themselves, and typically links to social media, which is also a very good way to keep up with your legislator. Most legislators are quite active on Facebook. Some have also a Twitter and a YouTube and an Instagram presence, but Facebook seems to still be the most common one. And I think that that's probably the easiest way to get up-to-date information on the day-to-day or week-to-week things the legislators are doing. In fact, they've really moved some of the things that used to do in person, like their open office hours where anybody could come in and chat with them about any issue, have often moved on to Facebook for Facebook Live types of things, where they'll get on video for an hour and people can type in questions and they'll answer them, and you can hear very directly from the legislator what they're thinking. So follow your legislators on Facebook once you've figured out who they are, and I think you'll learn a lot.
We'll get to anything else that Bob wants to add, but I just want to give you a little bit of information about how Advocacy Day is going to work and what you can do before April 20th. Advocacy Day, Library Advocacy Day is on Tuesday, April 20th. And we're going to our website, the website for the host organizations. The host organizations are the Michigan Library Association, the Michigan Academic Library Association, and MAME, which is the Michigan Association of Media and Education. But we bookmark that page on the Michigan Library Association's advocacy page, and it'll have lots of great information for you. So we have identified 9 different topic areas that you should know about. You probably know all of it, but we're going to give you 3-minute videos and make sure that you have information about some of the things that I think we've talked to our legislators about, and it may come up in your conversation. So we just want to make sure that you know and have accurate numbers of how much state aid is out there, how much we're receiving in penal fines, and that broadband has become so much more important during COVID, that kinds of things. So we want to, and we want to talk about early childhood literacy and the things that really are affecting you. But we are putting 9 of those areas. We're going to post this video, so you'll be able to look at how to prepare yourself for Advocacy Day, and make sure that you know all of those things. So watch these videos, and we will also have some talking points that are being developed for you to use during your meetings on April 20th. So, but Tuesday, mark your calendars, on Tuesday, April 20th, we are on a virtual platform. We begin at 8:30 in the morning. There will be a Zoom meeting, and we have all of the presidents of the host organizations, and we have a special guest coming in to motivate you and call you to action. And at 9:30, we will send you off on lots of virtual meetings with legislators. And I just want to thank Bob and his staff at GCSI for helping us to pull all of those meetings together and to call and schedule all of that. And as you're registering right now, we are putting your name and attaching your name to one of those legislators. And at this moment in time, and we're taping this a few weeks, at least a month out, we have close to 100 registered already. So we're going to have a really gorgeous day that day to make sure that we're in front of our legislators. So. But if you cannot join us, if you don't feel comfortable, if you can't because of work schedules or things like that, you can certainly use some of our templates that will be up on our website for emails or for social media posts or for voicemail. We'll give you some talking points if you want to put a voicemail in. But we want to make sure that if you can't join us on a Zoom call, that is the day still to be putting out communications to our legislators at every opportunity. But Bob, I think I'm going to turn it back over to you to talk about how do you think these meetings will go, the Zoom meetings that we're scheduling? What will happen during those, I will say 20 to 30-minute phone calls or Zoom meetings? So,
I mean, I think they're going to be pretty simple. The legislators go through this with lots of organizations. They have an advocacy day. We hopefully will have people from that legislator's district, and they're going to be excited about that. And so a good part of this is just going to be, here's where in your district I'm from. Here's what I do. Let me tell you a little bit about why I'm here today. And then I think you can ask the legislator a couple of questions about themselves, relate it to them as well. It's okay if you don't know them. It's okay if you haven't met them before. You don't need to pretend that you know everything about them. Hopefully you've read the bios. You can find those on their websites that Debbie and I were talking about earlier. But, ask some questions, ask them about, what their experiences have been with libraries, which libraries in the district have they attended, which libraries do their kids use, et cetera. And then, Debbie's got some talking points. And so try to take those and you use those to form a narrative, which hopefully will include some stories about your library, because that's what they're going to be most interested in. I guess my only advice is don't drag it out. A meeting that ends early is perfectly fine. You don't need to fill every minute. And I will say too, Debbie mentioned, some people aren't super comfortable with this. This is going to be a pretty good opportunity to get your feet wet. Hopefully we're going to have a couple of people in each meeting, and you know what? Not everybody has to do a lot of talking. And so if you're not super comfortable with this concept, volunteer to attend a meeting or two or three, but let Debbie know that you don't want to be a call leader. And you can introduce yourself, and then you can sit back and watch somebody else demonstrate some advocacy. And then maybe next year you'll feel a little bit more comfortable and you can take your turn as a call leader. But this is going to be about as low pressure of an advocacy situation as you're ever going to get. Everybody loves the libraries. Debbie and I have now done nearly all of the 28 brand new legislators in Zoom meetings just to introduce who MLA is. And we've not had really any sort of hostility from any of them. Everybody's got a great story about the library. You wouldn't believe how many of them say, "Oh yeah, I grew up going to this library, and now my kids are going there." And it's great. It's exactly what we want to hear, and that's what you're going to hear a lot of. So I would encourage you to participate, and it's okay if you don't want to take the lead. We'll find somebody else that can do that.
I think some meetings, and just to, for expectations, some of you will be in meetings with 1 or 2 people, and others might be in the room with 20 to 25 people. It depends on where you live and how many people are registered. So we don't know, we don't have any of that information yet, but you will be getting more information if you're registered. You will be being placed into one of the Zoom meetings, and up to probably 4. So we're asking you where you live and where you work. And they may be two different Senate districts or 2 different House districts. So you might have up to four meetings that day, and you just have to let us know if that is possible for you, but we will communicate that with you. And like I said, if you don't have a comfort level and you feel like you're the only one in the room, only one going into this meeting, one of us can definitely join you, and to ease the fear, I guess.
That's a good point, Debbie. I mean, not shockingly, Debbie and I can't be in each one of these meetings, but we can be in several. And so we'll join. And so hopefully I'll see some of you during these meetings, and Debbie will as well. But we'll fill in those gaps as needed. And I look forward to advocating with all of you.
Good. Well, thank you all for joining us. And if you have questions, please feel free to call us at 517-394-2774. We can answer any questions. Our emails are on our website at milibraries.org. The website is going live on April 1st, and so you'll be seeing all of the videos and all of the communications that we're hoping that you that'll be on demand and that you take a peek at before April 20th. So, so we'll send you off with good luck on your meetings, and we'll look forward to hearing the results of them afterwards. So thanks very much.